Hello and welcome to Real Menopause Talk, and it's season 5. So a massive welcome to those of you who are new here and a warm welcome back to those of you who are already friends of the show. It's a little bit of an experiment this season with some video, some double track audio, and some of the usual. So I'd be very grateful for your thoughts and feedback over the season as to what you like and what you don't. Good and bad, just drop me a line, and I'll pop in a reminder at the end of the show. Our first guest, kicking off season 5, is Lavina Mehta, MBE. She's a mum of 3 and a relatively recently qualified personal trainer whose workouts and exercise snacks have gone stratospheric over the last few years, and she is using her powers for good. Lavina is a proud menopause mandate supporter, keen to normalise peri to post-menopause for everyone, and in particular, the South Asian community. She's a busy woman, as I am sure are you, so I will let her tell you all about her menopause adventures. It is lovely to see you again. Thank you for taking the time to join us this afternoon. I know you are very busy. So to start off with, would you like to tell everybody a little bit about you?
Thanks, Hattie. Thank you for having me, firstly. I'm very excited to speak to you. So I'm Lavina. I'm a mum of 3. I've got 3 amazing boys and a little Cavapoo now as well to add to the clan. I'm a personal trainer and wellness coach, only qualified just over 4 years ago after leaving the corporate world just to raise the boys, and gave that up when I fell pregnant with my youngest, who's 15 now. Started my wellness journey very late in life, and am now doing things that I never imagined, doing things that I love, and just helping all ages. That's my mission, is to help as many people as I can of all ages. I can say proudly up to 100. A lovely 100-year-old lady joined my workouts through the pandemic as well. And it's to feel good physically, mentally, and emotionally, and help us embrace life phases just like the perimenopause and menopause.
Which we will absolutely come to very shortly. But for those who don't know, how did it all begin with you support every age, but your workouts throughout the pandemic in particular just took on a whole new life? Can you tell everybody a bit about that?
Yes. So I have a concept called exercise snacking, which I can enlighten you all about. But when the COVID pandemic hit, before that, I was just training women one-to-one for just about over a year and a half in my sort of small private gym. It was an incredible time where I could really help women of all ages from 30 to 70, lots of different goals, lots of menopausal women as well. And then when the COVID pandemic hit, just prior to that, I'd been on Sky News because they had found out about my lovely exercise snacks when I'd done a very silly, fun advent calendar through December. And it was literally me running around doing workouts, whatever you could think of, even if it was a minute in Waitrose or a minute outside in the park. And I love the science behind exercise. And what I found was, being a busy mum, leading busy lifestyles like we all are, it's sometimes really hard to find the motivation to exercise and the time. So I wanted to break down all the barriers. And when the COVID pandemic hit, I decided to just go live and open out my Instagram, which was a very private, small account. I was quite I would say, private person, maybe not shy, but I'd never done anything big on social media. And I decided to go live with my husband and son every lunchtime for 15 minutes. We did a lot of fun and games outside in the garden, just to lift people's moods, boost their immune systems, and get them feeling good through the pandemic. And I found that all ages were joining us, like from global participants all over the place. And it was an incredible response. So quite overwhelmingly, even people like my parents, so grandparents, were joining in. I then expanded to an evening workout. So I wanted to do more than just the typical HIIT or the quick blast. I wanted it to be a very structured program, introduce people into strength training, which I think is the missing piece of the jigsaw for so many of us. in our fitness programs. And I did things like stretch sessions on a Sunday to upper body, lower body, bit of cardio core. It was all very structured through the week. Again, with my husband and son. And then I also decided to go live with my amazing mother-in-law, who is also very camera shy, to help the elderly and the less mobile and the vulnerable that were just stuck in their homes. And I have continued those free workouts. I call them my feel-good workouts every Friday, because now it's really helping anyone that's sitting too long. And I think we can all put our hands up. We're all leading, sedentary lifestyles. We're stuck behind our desks or on the sofa for too long. And it's to show people that you can even do exercises while we're seated on your chairs as well.
You're an active menopause campaigner, which is how we met at the rally back in October last year. Where are you in terms of perimenopause, and how did you discover that you were?
So I'm 44. I'm South Asian. So I think the research is actually showing now that South Asian women can actually go through the menopause 5 or 6 years earlier than the average white female. But there's a lot more research that needs to be done. And I noticed changes, I would say, when I turned about 40, where I started getting irregularity in my menstrual cycle. I have kicked off a whole new career path. I'd never envisaged to be a personal trainer, let alone what's happened over the last few years on social media. And I suppressed a lot of the symptoms that I feel I had through the pandemic. I almost confused them with post-COVID symptoms as well. So things like the brain fog, the forgetfulness, the boys are saying, "Mummy, you're forgetting everything." I had some sort of chest tightness, I would say difficulty breathing, irregularities with my sleep. So my sleep schedule wasn't fabulous. Some of the anxiety as well, which I just thought was part of this very exciting but very busy time over the last few years for me personally. And I suppressed it like a lot of women. And obviously I was, looking after everyone else like most of us females do. And it was around the beginning of last year that I suddenly thought, I need to go to the doctor and just get everything checked out, get my bloods done. And I started thinking, could I be going through the perimenopause? Because COVID has happened and, I've kind of recovered from that. And I had lots of chest x-rays and things done, in the meantime. And everything seemed to be fine. So I had the normal blood tests with my GP, just because I was under 45. And it was really me tracking my symptoms. And then I think the penny dropped when I actually watched the Davina McCall documentary. It literally brought me to tears, Hattie, to the point where my husband and son, heard me sobbing away, and they switched off their football and came and watched the documentary with me. Really, the revelation was around Alzheimer's for me, because my late grandmother had Alzheimer's. And I really saw her suffering for the last decade of her life, which is why I do a lot of work to support the charity and try and raise awareness on that side. So the brain changes were really something that just made me think that potentially this is it. I'm definitely going through perimenopause. Then the next day I went live on Instagram in tears, and I just said, I've watched this really impactful documentary and I'm definitely perimenopausal, and I want us all to start talking about it, especially in the South Asian communities where I feel it's quite a taboo subject.
How is it regarded? Because I feel very strongly that the representation of menopause should be representation of all who are going through menopause. And quite often, certainly in the UK, certainly in London, it feels like it can be quite white middle class. How is menopause regarded in the Asian community? And I mean, you're a beautiful role model for Asian women, the Asian community, looking after yourself, for perimenopause, so many things. So how do you carry that through?
Yeah, I think when I first revealed I was perimenopausal, I was totally overwhelmed, inundated with direct messages on Instagram. Women at rock bottom, and they were from my communities where A, they suppressed symptoms, B, they didn't even understand what the word perimenopause was, because obviously we have so many different dialects, and I'm Gujarati, but there's no direct translation in my language even for the menopause, let alone the perimenopause. And women at rock bottom, like where they've obviously had issues with their marriages, relationships with their children have potentially broken down, thinking about leaving their work, or they're just generally not up for anything. And it made me feel so heartbroken. And I felt like, I had to be in a position where I wanted to sort of reframe the way we talk about it to show that obviously I've embraced the last 4 years, regardless of my symptoms. I've still kicked off this incredible journey, which has brought me immense satisfaction. So try and make it quite positive. So I don't want to scare people off, but also give them a lot of education, because I think our community, especially being South Asian, there's a general taboo around a lot of topics, whether it was lack of education around exercise, not talking about things like mental health. We don't talk about things like periods, sex, let alone menopause. So it was all, my goal was to try and start opening up, to start sharing, using my experience so that hopefully it's relatable to someone out there. And I'm very real, as you see, like no filters. I just try and be as real as possible. So it was really quite an eye opener to see so many women suffering. And that's why I'm very, very keen to keep campaigning, keep raising awareness, and keep sharing my story in the hope that it will just help someone out there.
How is the conversation changing since you have opened up?
I think it's brilliant. I mean, I think it's amazing. The fact that obviously women, there's been so many campaigners for so many years. Somehow last year, everything just came together. And obviously, being part of the menopause mandate now has given me an incredible platform to be with some mainstream faces that people recognize. And so I've really embraced every minute of that journey, and I will continue to do so. So I think it's definitely changed. I love the fact that now not only do I get stopped basically on a daily basis from either a woman or a man, which I think is so important, because I wanted to make sure that we're having these conversations with the men around us, be it people in your home. I have conversations with my dad now, which I'd never ever imagined, or in the workplace. When I go and do workplace wellness sessions, it's just so important that the men around us can understand and can sympathize and support women through this. But yeah, on a daily basis, I get stopped by someone either talking to me about their menopause, or maybe they're questioning what to do next. And even my husband is now getting stopped, by his friends saying that their wives are just opening up the conversation, which is, I think, the most important place to start.
Oh, it absolutely is. And involving everybody is so important. What are you doing to look after yourself?
So you will see, I do try and practice what I preach. My obviously concept of exercise snacking is scientifically proven to be as effective, if not more effective, than the hour-long workout that sometimes we just can't fit in. I'm all about trying to hit the government guidelines of exercise, not for how we look. My slogan has been to exercise for sanity, not vanity. So it's more about emphasizing the mental health benefits of exercise. That when you exercise, you just get that straight away endorphin rush. Your mood should be lifted, which I think is so important, people's mental health at this time. And also reducing chronic illnesses. So I'm a Diabetes UK ambassador. I support the Alzheimer's charity as well. I'm trying to make people realize that it's not just what you see when we exercise, but all the incredible benefits it's doing for our long-term health. And especially for women during the menopause, we know that we are at more risk of conditions like diabetes, heart disease, and osteoporosis. So it's the power of movement. And I obviously love lifting heavy weights, but I only started my fitness journey around 11 years ago. So I hope that's inspiring to people that, I was never into fitness as I grew up. And it's about finding something that you enjoy. It might not be heavy lifting for you. I would love people to incorporate some strength training in all their routines. But I try and do a mixture, a nice balanced, holistic approach. So you'll see my feel good walks daily on my Instagram stories, where I'm out in nature. And I feel like that's such a big part of my sort of therapy, self-care, as I call it. Yeah, I just try and fit it in because I'm busy as well. There's so many things I want to do and so many opportunities I want to embrace in life at the moment. But it's very important that we find that time for ourselves as well.
As well as the exercise, which I agree with you wholeheartedly, is non-negotiable on a daily basis of some description. And I'm another fan of lifting heavy weights, and equally a fan of walking in nature as far as possible, living in the city, but walking, doing some kind of exercise. Like I said before we started recording, otherwise I lose my mind.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It keeps everybody happy.
Yes.
In addition to the exercise, there is obviously nutrition as well, which goes with that.
Yeah.
How do you approach food?
So firstly, I love food because my mum is a chef and a cookery writer. So she's written a couple of books, and that's where my whole Feel Good brand originated from. Her last book is Feel Good with Food, designed like a rainbow, all about the power of antioxidants, polyphenols. I'm very lucky that I have my mum and that I typed her book while I was pregnant with our 15-year-old. So it's going back quite a number of years, but that did give me that lovely foundation of understanding the science behind food and why we're eating, like broccoli or certain food groups. So my passion from food definitely comes from my mom. I don't believe in restricting. I believe in nourishing the body. I believe in a flexible approach. So, when people message me all the time, like, do you provide a meal plan? No, I don't provide a meal plan. A, because I'm not a registered or qualified nutritionist or dietitian, but B, because I want every individual to find the joy of food. Like, I don't want you to cut out food groups. We want to eat colorful, diversified diets, less processed, obviously less sugar, home cooked food. And I think you've got to find something that works for you. So I don't want to be prescriptive, but more encouraging about food. And I'm vegetarian, but I have never struggled, being vegetarian all my life in the UK as a British Asian. I've never felt bored with food. I think there's so much we can do with it. I do believe in, obviously, I've got a big family to feed, so I do take some shortcuts, and I sometimes batch cook a little bit, or I'll make a bit extra so that I know I've got lunch ready from dinner the night before. But I think it's really important that we are nourishing our bodies through the menopause, especially.
So important to eat the rainbow, all the different vegetables, because you touched on it there that you want to encourage people to find the joy of food. And there's a lot talked about the Mediterranean diet, which is spectacular. And there are other cultures that maybe don't lean towards the avocados and the olive oils, but lean towards just as nutritious, beautiful food that just doesn't fall into the category of Mediterranean. So embracing what works for you, what you find joy in, is absolutely critical. Does your mum still cook for you?
Yeah, and I think, like even spices, being Indian, like the power of spices, like we know now the huge market of turmeric, which is something that we've been using for hundreds of years in our food, in our little, grandma would give me if I had a sore throat, honey and turmeric paste. And now you see the capsules of turmeric. But it's using all the things that fit in with your culture, with your traditions as well. And obviously, protein does play a big role. I think, when we are trying to build lean muscle mass, and when we're trying to improve our bone density and reduce risks of things like osteoporosis and maintain a healthy weight, like I think that's very important in terms of longevity and reducing risks of chronic illnesses like diabetes. You want to try and make sure that each plate, each meal has enough protein. You don't have to go overboard, but it's just something to think about. And I think when protein keeps you satiated, you're less likely to then binge for the naughty sugary stuff. So it's trying to find, good, healthy, natural sources of protein, being vegetarian for me as well. And obviously trying to, when I'm doing my strength training, I want to make sure I'm fueling my body as well.
And then you recover better and you feel better and still have enough energy for life and the kids and work and everything.
Yeah, I think, like the holistic approach. We're talking about food, we're talking about exercise, sleep, mindfulness, whether that's some simple breath work that I throw into all my free workouts where we just do what I call a breath snack. It's just a moment to calm the anxieties. We can all have stressful moments. There's times where I don't feel like working out, or there's times where I'm rushing around so much that the fight or flight mode is so switched on that we need to try and bringing that parasympathetic nervous system to calm the body and mind. And breath work, journaling, meditation, even doing a simple 5-minute stretch snack, as I'll call it, but even some simple stretching at your desk or before bed on the floor, it's just going to help you, I think, treat your body and mind. So it's a really sort of holistic, balanced approach that I'm trying to encourage women. And I think that's important because of our, menopause and perimenopause symptoms. There are times where we are struggling, and it's really important to listen to your body and do something that works for you. So it doesn't have to be an intense workout every time. Just be kind to yourselves. And I think the beauty of taking small bite-sized amounts is that even if you do a minute, you're going to feel like, okay, at least I've done something today. And maybe I'll do 10 minutes tomorrow, but it's building up to hit the government guidelines.
And if you are sitting all day, you've got a cavapoo, I've got a cockapoo. I find even their stretches when they wake up or they're midday, they'll just do some beautiful stretch, and it's very encouraging to do the same. And you instantly feel better. So that's all great advice. What do you get asked the most?
Oh gosh, obviously it's around weight loss, I think. I think, even though I'm trying to reframe the way we think about it and really highlight all the other benefits beyond what we can see and just how exercise makes you feel, it is generally, one of those questions. And I do feel like, through the menopause and perimenopause, it's a very common question. Even I myself, I'll put my hands up, struggle with the bloating, with the menopause. Unfortunately, as our estrogen levels decline, it does come part of the package. And whether you're taking HRT or not, my whole thoughts around it are, let's just try and do everything we can. And imagine if you weren't exercising. That's what I tell a lot of women, like that boost of self-esteem, that confidence. And I think it's, ditch the scales. I don't really want women to weigh themselves that often. You do it monthly, do it, just don't get obsessive about it, or do it weekly, but at the same point, I would ideally say same point of every month, because obviously my menstrual cycle is still very up and down and erratic. But it's about, how we feel in our clothes, for sure. Just capture the mental health benefits, how you feel after a workout. Like I know you like lifting weights, but when I'm lifting those weights, I just forget about everything else. So when you find the joy in movement, whatever it may be, whether it's just, a quick HIIT workout or some stretching or a walk as well, hopefully it will help you feel stronger, body and mind, and more empowered. So I think that's more important, especially as we age. It's a very common question, but let's look at all the other incredible benefits it brings.
What next for you? It's been such an amazing few years. What's happening coming up?
Oh gosh, I'm very, very lucky that every day just throws me something new or something challenging. And while I've got the energy, who knows what I'll be doing in 5 or 10 years? I'm just trying to really embrace every single opportunity. So I will be continuing campaigning around the menopause for sure. I just want women to feel good. I will be using exercise to help us with all the different, charities that I work with. I will manifest it with you, Hattie. I'm hoping to write a book more to just literally be there as a kind of guide, a toolkit to help women through and get people exercise snacking. So I'm manifesting. Watch this space, fingers crossed. I hope to continue my free workouts as well, because I really don't want there to be any barriers with exercise. I've tried to show that you don't have to have fancy gym equipment. We sometimes use tins and plastic bottles. You don't have to have gym membership. You don't have to have a lot of time. Just get started and enjoy the journey.
I found that perimenopause is constantly teaching me lessons or flagging up things to look out for. How about you?
Oh gosh, all the time. I'm still getting to grips with HRT myself. Although I started, 9 months ago, I've had to switch in between. I've had to sort of make my own tweaks. I think, writing it all down, keeping a track of my symptoms has been a game changer because, combined with the brain fog, if we forget what happens yesterday, let alone when you go to your GP appointment. So I do try and keep track of everything. And I try not to beat myself up. The HRT for me hasn't been that overnight, it's like, oh my gosh, this is the miracle cure. I'm just accepting it as part of the journey, and that my body's going to take time to maybe adjust. And I'll just keep trying until I find the right thing for me. And HRT isn't for everyone. That's why I think exercise and lifestyle plays such a huge role. But I guess what I've learned is that also let's embrace this phase of life. Like, even though if I look back and think about all the symptoms I've had, I've also had the time of my life being perimenopausal. And I'm now doing something that I never, ever imagined. So I hope that inspires women. If you've got something that you feel passionate about, just start, just give it a go. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just like my videos and my social media, just go for it in life. Life's too short. So I think that's what it's taught me, is just to go for it in life. That's it.
It's so important that people do realise this, and you are a perfect ambassador for it. It's not the end, it's the beginning of more.
Yeah, I think it's a chance for us all to invest in ourselves. We are going to have to face looking after the elderly, and, maybe your kids are growing up. It's another challenge in life, but I think invest in your health and in your mental health, physical health. They say it's a second spring, and I definitely feel like my journey has been like that. Really blessed to be doing what I'm doing. And I think the more open we are, the more we talk about it, just like on platforms like this, it's going to really help us all get through it.
Lavina, thank you so much for your time. It has been such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Hattie, for having me. Lots of love, everyone.
You can find Lavina on Instagram, on her website, and in fact all social media at Feel Good with Lavina. I will leave the details as usual in the show notes. Just as a reminder, I would be very grateful for any feedback over the course of the season, whether different editing systems sound like they work for you. Obviously, you won't necessarily know what they are, but you will know which episode is maybe a little bit different. So good or bad, I would love to hear from you. And please do leave us a review, particularly on Apple Podcasts, as it does help more women discover us. Thank you all for joining us. And thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.